Hello and welcome to the Barbara Young channel. Now today I'm going to be repairing this bag. This is a bag I made a long time ago. Had a bag that was similar to it and wanted to get one, couldn't. And I have shown this bag before because I had to do a bit of repair work on it where the starts to wear from having these magnetic clips on there. But really I've found that it's worn out in other places, here on the where the buckle part is, and generally it's just wearing out. And I think the main problem is that this material, as much as it's hard wearing in a single piece, if you have to crease it over and have an edge, these edges just don't last very well, and because it's such a loose weave, once it starts fraying it just starts going all over the place. So I'm going to replace this, but I'm not going to replace everything. What I'm going to do is take apart the outer, use that as my template, but keep the inner, because the inner piece is fine. That's a cotton canvas, and that is perfectly good as it is now. And the way that I sort of designed this is that basically the inner is a separate piece from the outer, and then it's just stitched in. So I can literally undo the stitching that releases the inner from the outer and then make a new outer piece using this bag as my template. So a bit of work, but hopefully won't take too long, because all I've got to do is mainly make an outer bag and then put the inner in. And the only time consuming bit really, I suppose, is to take it apart. So that's first thing to do, deconstruct. Well, I've managed to liberate the inside of the bag. You see it's a complete piece in itself, which includes these parts, but they've got that outer bit. So that's been taken out of the inside of the inside, taken out of the outside. Bit confusing myself there. Which is this piece, which actually when I made this I forgot that I'd done this top section as a separate piece from the bottom, which is fine, I can work with that. The way I normally make the bag now is this bit is all in one. Makes construction a little bit easier, but I mean this is fine, I can work with this. But what I've got to do now is take this completely apart so I can use it as a template for the new outer. So a bit of fiddling around, taking it all apart, especially as I think I'd done the seams and everything. I'd overlocked the edging. Well, not overlocked, I haven't got an overlocker, but I done a zigzag on the edge of the seams and stuff. So it's going to take a bit of work to get this apart, I think. But I've got to do that so I can get my template sorted. Well, I've finally got everything disassembled, as it were, taken apart. I've got the side pieces and the main part of the bag, really, which is just one big rectangle, and then these sides just get sewn onto it. And then when I originally made this bag, I made it with the top piece and the flap and everything as a separate section, so I did this as one big thing. Now this, I've actually got a pattern from a slightly later incarnation of this bag that will actually work. Instead of me having to redraw all this, the only bits I've really got to work out are these two, which is basically one big rectangle and these two end pieces. The top bit, the flap that goes over, I've got, where have I put it? These two parts I can redo it with, and as far as this one being rectangular, I can just curve the corners off if I want, like it originally was on the original bag. So that'll help to make it a bit quicker to do that. And then this flap, well, this is just a fake flap, so that'll be easy enough to make out from that piece that I've got there. It shouldn't be difficult, just a rectangular piece. So now I need to get my material out and sort out marking that up. And here is the material I'm going to use. Now this is a 100% cotton canvas. That's what it is, and it's quite, it's quite heavy duty, quite thick. It will fray out if allowed to, but it's a lot less likely to fray out than what I'd originally made the bag out of. And it's hard wearing, and shouldn't have a problem with getting that made. And I'm just trying to decide whether I should interface this or not, because actually this is, it's a certain amount of rigidity in this type of material, so it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to interface it. But I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I might not. But if I do interface it, it'll only be for that main big rectangular piece that I'm going to be redoing. Let me just grab end piece. See, you can see the difference between these two, can't you? That's what it originally was. This is this, I don't know, almost Hessian sack type look to it, to this cotton canvas. It's a slightly different green, but it's still a nice green, and it's much more durable and less likely to fray out than this is. So hopefully once I've got my pieces made, this will work a lot better. So I better get and mark it up and get them out. Well, I've got all my pieces now cut out that I need to make the outer, for the flap, for the top cover, the sides, a big rectangular piece. Before I put any of this together, I'm actually going to have to work out where the hardware is going to go, which is the magnetic glass. Now, I'm not quite sure of its positioning, so what I'm going to do is have a quick look on the previous pieces, see how it's laid out and whereabouts I sort of need to put them, because the other thing with this is when I put it together first, I think I may have had a 15mm seam allowance, but obviously that had got trimmed down when it was put together. So at the moment I'm looking at this thinking it seems to be a 10mm seam allowance. So that's how I've made it, that's what I'm working with. So I'm hoping it goes together nicely with a 10mm seam allowance. I've just got to make sure I get these in the right place, which I've got two of, and I've also got this, which is like a heavy duty interfacing material that I got out of the curtains actually, and I'm going to cut that up and use that as backing for these, because that's another thing I didn't do on the original bag. I didn't really put any backing on these to mean that they didn't pull on the original material, and which inevitably caused it to fail at that point. So that's what I'll be using, that's what I've learned to use, and it seemed to work quite well on other bags I've made. So that's what I'm going to do now, mark up where my hardware is going to go and get it ready to go on before I start putting the pieces together, because it'd be a lot harder to try and get these in after you started putting stuff together. Well, that's the way I found it to be anyway. So on to marking up and fitting these. Now I've flown on a little bit with constructing this bag, but one of the things I do have is the flap where the magnetic tags go onto, or at least part of the magnetic tag. Obviously you've got the two parts, that's the bigger piece with the magnet in it, and that's the other bit that goes onto it, and the backing of it is just this little ring piece that goes over the back, that fold over. Now I've found that just putting them straight on like that, obviously the material, and if it did have interfacing even on its own like that, isn't enough. So I've got this, well, it's like an interfacing, and it was actually taken out of some curtains at the top piece where the pole would have gone through, so it's a really heavy duty interfacing piece, and I've cut it up, so, and I put little slits in it so that I can put this over the back of it, so it acts as a bit of a backing to it. And I've actually got more than one piece. I've got that and a longer piece, but basically what I'm doing is I'm putting this into here and then putting these backings on to stop it from pulling through and stop it causing any problems with here, and it needs the backing to make it as secure as I can. So the other thing I've been doing with my magnetic clasps is that where the holes are going, what I've done is I've marked up, and I've done them like little buttonholes, so it helps stop them from being strained, so we're not straining that hole. I've not got this metal pushing against it too much, which I found does certainly help to keep it in place and stop any wear. But let's put this on and show you how I'm putting this together. So first of all, I'm taking this part of the clip and I'm putting it through the buttonholes that I've made, which means it sits in nice and neatly there. And then on the back, before I put this the metal piece, I'm actually putting the first bit of the interfacing stuff, so it goes on there like that. Then I'm actually then putting on the second piece of interfacing, then I'm putting on the metal piece, and then I'm folding this longer piece over that I've slitted for it already, and that is then going onto there before I fold these tabs down to secure it all. That way none of the sharp bits hopefully rub against the material, and this backing is now thick enough that it allows it that now that I'm going to fold it over, and I'll just get ready for this. One side, get that firmly down, and then the other side, and get that down. And I have found that using a pair of scissors, but not my best scissors, something like these, I'm then just putting it down on there, and then using the flat to just try and help push that firmly down. And there you have it, one clasp that's on there, and hopefully that padding and that will stop it from rubbing and straining and causing problems obviously on that material. And some of the bags that once I work this process out, some of the bags I have made, it seems to have worked quite well, so I'm quite happy to keep doing it that way. Well, I've got several pieces ready now. The flap, and this is the top, the cover bit that goes over the top of the bag, and it's in two parts. And basically what I've got to do now is to sew these two together, but this I've got to sew inside there, because it's going to be, this is basically inside out, and then once I've sewn it, turn it through. So there's those two bits done, and that to make the actual top piece, and that'll be the top piece done. I've already done the whole of the main bag, already stitched that up, stitched the sides on, and done some zigzag rounds at the edge in that, make it nice and secure. I've already put the two holes in, or the holes ready for the magnets. I'm not going to put the magnets in yet, because that'll make it a bit difficult to sew. It'll drag the bag around a bit when I'm trying to sew in the inside to this outer piece. So I'll do them a bit later before it actually gets closed up and I can't get in. So that is near the end, that stage. So getting there, so next part really is to finish off this bit and then see about getting the innards into the outer. Well, the bag's coming together now. I've managed to get the inside stitched to the outside, and I've got the one slot left open I've got to fix up there. The top's ready to go on, and the way this works is that I've stitched in one side of this outer zip, and just need to stitch in this other side. Now fitting this on is going to be a little tricky, because the way I've done it when I originally did this is I basically slotted the top on and then stitched on, and that closed it up. But before I do that, I've got to fit the rest of the hardware, and also this is meant to have a fake flap on there on this top section, so I've got to put that on and work out the placing of the hardware on the back here before this gets closed up. So that's next step. Get these on, get the fake flap made up, and work out where it's going to meet up, and then put this on, and hopefully it all goes together. I'm also not quite sure how I'm going to fix this zip in. It may be that before I put this on, I've actually got to stitch this in to this flap here, and then this will go on top of that, and the whole lot is one massive great big thick piece, which if I remember rightly was always the case. Quite a bit of heavy sewing to get through this lot to make this all fit together, but I can't do any of that until I've got the hardware sorted out, so I better shut up and get on with it, I suppose. So here we finally are, the finished bag, all done nice and neat. Now I may hear you asking, hang on a minute, we were only about halfway through construction last time, and now it's fully done. Well, yes, I have to admit I was in a rush to get it done, and here in the UK we're having a bit of a mini heat wave, and it's very, very warm, so I got to the point where I was just like, I want to get this done, I want to get it finished. I do need to do some videoing. I did do a bit of videoing, but didn't really go very well as I was through the final stages of constructing this bag, but we'll go over what I've done anyway to update where I was, but yeah, that's the finished bag. Now that is a false front, that doesn't go anywhere, but that's how it was previously, so that sits out on the outside, and the actual opening is on the inside, and it's got those magnetic pops on there. Now last time I'd had this, I'd managed to get the inside fixed into the bag, but I hadn't put on these zips and this top flat piece, and of course there's the rest of the hardware, because that's what I was looking at. So I'd put these on, the magnetic clips, and I'd also worked out where I was going to stitch these on, which I needed to do before I put this top flap on, which is what I did afterwards, and got the fake flap, and the fake flap is now attached to the actual top piece. That's where it got stitched to, but it's not stitched all the way through. Again, that had to be done when that was still off, and then once I'd got the hardware on, got these magnetic pieces on, and had this bit, I then had to fix this back part of the zip in onto this inner section before I put this. It's almost like it just slots on. Turned up the trim on the hem piece and sort of slotted it on, and then did a double row of stitching to hold it all together, and that's pretty much was then it. That was the final part, putting that piece on. It just took a bit of time to get these two bits of hardware on, the fake flap, positioning these fake pieces on here on the hardware, getting this zip bit in position. It all takes much longer than you ever actually think that it's going to take, so yeah, that took quite a bit of time. The last thing that I had to do to finish this off was to actually put the strap on. Now this strap is stitched on there, both sides. This one has got a clip on that side, but still had to sew this bit on. Now the difficulty there is that this webbing material, even though it is a proper canvas one, it's a cotton one, it's not a man-made, it's a natural fibre, it's really quite tough. You know, this is not easy to sew through, so these end pieces have to be sewn on by hand. I have to hand stitch these sections on for it to sit right and for it to be in the right position, which unfortunately it just takes time. It just takes a long time to actually get them sewn on, because it's such hard work to get and stitch through all that. I have tried it on the sewing machine on other bags, and it just doesn't like it. It might do a few stitches and then it jams up, and then there's thread everywhere, and it just doesn't like it. So all in all, it's quite a difficult job to get that done, but it has now come out quite good. I think it's all come together quite fine. It's a nice bag, lovely colour, now green bag, back to green, because I had been using a blue bag, but this one I do like. 2 double zips, it's got an outer zip and then an inner zip on the inside section, so that gives a lot of closure to the bag, and it sits quite well. It can also sit across the body, which is brilliant because the strap's nice and long and adjustable, so I can have it in any position I like really, and off the shoulder or across the body, which makes it nice and secure, and it's quite large. So yeah, a nice rework to a bag that I thought I wouldn't be able to use again, but remaking this in the cotton canvas material rather than the original sort of almost like sack material that it originally was made out of, has given me a nice usable bag again. And this one is a lovely size. It's slightly bigger than the other ones that I now make. Not that I've made many lately, I've been focusing more on sewing other stuff, but yeah, brilliant, lovely sort of messenger style everyday bag. Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining me on this video. I look forward to joining you on my next video. Bye.